Hello, my scrappy friends. Welcome back to Nat Scraps. Thank you for once again joining me on my crafty journey. Today we are working once again on Christie's Beautiful Life's 30 days of sketches, and we are on day 18, you guys. And this is the sketch by Nikki up in the top left-hand corner. You can see there we've got some stripes, we've got a couple of photos and lots of stars and bursts and so much going on. I have pulled out these two photos of my son and I absolutely adore these photos. I had trimmed it down to a square there, and you can see me doing a little bit of patching because I wanted it a little bit more rectangular. So I was going to follow the sketch with that smaller photo on the right hand side, but I decided that that wasn't going to work with these photos because the largest photo he is looking down, and in this little one he's actually kind of looking upwards, so it kind of looks like the two photos are looking at each other, if you get what I mean. So I went and patched that back together. In the final result, I can see a little line there, guys, but I'm much happier. If it really bothers me, I can actually reprint that photo and fix all of those issues. I'm bringing in some paper from the March-April 2022 mixing pack and a bit of the Sundance paper as well, and these papers matched these photos perfectly, so that orange, you couldn't get much of a better match. Once I have them all trimmed and I'm happy with their lengths and I feel that they are the right widths also, I am going to pop my photos back on and then move on to our next step, which is going to be stamping. I've brought in the fresh paint stamp set, and that has some great sayings on it as well as some stars and bits and pieces, and I'm going to use that for all of the stamping on this page. You may have noticed I just flipped over my Versamat, and now I've got it for the soft spongy side for stamping, and that is really good when you're working on a layout. You don't need to have that stamping foam underneath where you're working and have to worry about whether you're on or off it. Here I'm marking my photos and the edge of my paper so I know exactly where I want my stamping. I'm got that, and it gives me an idea of how far over I want it and whether I'm filling up the space that I need, so I don't do too much stamping or not enough. I'm also doing second generation. You can see that my first stamp off onto that scrap paper on the side is quite bright, and then that second stamp is a little bit more muted and not quite so in your face. And that's what I was looking for. So if I'd gone in with all of that bright orange, it was going to be taking over from my photos, and I didn't want that. I wanted the photos to be the star of the layout. And how could you not with a cute kid like that that's so cheeky? I know, every mum thinks their kid's beautiful, but he is. I just went back in there after I popped those photos down. I thought there's a couple of little spaces that had a little bit too much white, so I just went and filled them in, and now I am double checking to make sure that I'm happy with that. Once I believe I am happy with that, I'm going to adhere these bits and pieces down. Now you just see that wording that I popped up to the side. That is some wording that I'd done on the Cricut machine saying uniquely you. And what I did with that was I actually cut it out 3 times. So when it comes to layering that on my layout, they're all going to go on top of each other and make that into more like a chipboard cutout rather than just paper, and it will give it some dimension. I'm blending these 3 strips, and a little bit later on we'll see some more stamping that I'll do, and that bit of blending around the outside edges of those strips will blend in some of that other stamping that I will do. Once I've got those on, I'm also going to add a little bit of the foam to the back of the photos and to give them some dimension as well. So you'll see here that I've added it to both of the photos, and then when I place both of the photos on the page, I will just move them and check them where they overlap. And you'll notice here that one corner of the smaller photo is overlapping that larger one. So I'm just going to trim out roughly where that is so that there's not a double height there, and that they're both sitting right on the same level. I'm going to go back in now and check roughly where that uniquely you is going to sit. And what I'm looking for is that I'm going to put some more stamping in a light grey. I think I used, from memory, let me think, pewter, that's the one I used. I used the pewter ink, and I'm going to do that up around the top and around the photos. So I'm looking at where I can place things and where they're not going to interfere with that uniquely you. Now I do look at this big star, and I've got the perfect spot there that would be underneath that title. And I'm thinking, if I do that, am I going to be able to see my title okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little trial. I'm going to ink up that stamp on a bit of scrap paper, and I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to see if it's too dark and if it interferes with the title and makes the title unreadable, or whether it enhances where the title is. So once I've got that cut out, I'm going to pop it back on and give it a little trial there. Pop the uniquely over, and I think it's just too much. It's too dark and it's going to take away from that title. So I'm going to do a second trial, and I'm going to try a second generation stamping. So just like I've done with the Sundance stamping, the orange stamping in the background, I'm going to do that again and do a second generation. So here I'm trialing it, and I think, yep, it's not too dark here. It's going to be okay, and it enhances and not taking away from the title. So this time I'm going to do it for real. So I'm going to stamp it onto that scratch paper and then straight onto my layout. Now I do realize after this that I didn't have my Versamat up the right way, but all the stamping went okay, so thank goodness it did. Here I'm going in with the smaller stars and placing those around. So this time I'm not doing second generation. You can see how much darker that is compared to the second generation stamp. I've also got these little swirls, and I feel like they're just bursting out of the photos and out of those stars, and I think they work perfectly. And there's also a larger one, and I bring that one in as well, and it's also just going to look like it's bursting out of those areas. This is building 3 little clusters, so one where the title's going to be and one each down at the bottom there. This is a tiny cluster of stamps, and that one came in a set. I think it was Penguin Day or something. Please don't quote me on that one, but it was a special that was in the middle of the year for National Stamping Month, National Scrapbooking Month. And I just love the little cluster of stars and how they can enhance those little areas without having to individually stamp each one. Here you can see I am placing down that first title. So I've popped a little bit of glue on the bottom, and you can see that I'm using the press and seal to make sure all this stays in place. So when I've taken this off the Cricut mat, I've actually put the press and seal over the top and lifted it off, meaning that when I layer these up, then they're going to be very close to in the right place when I put them down on top of each other. And especially when you're doing layers, it saves a little bit of work and a little bit of time. Now, it's not going to be absolutely spot on perfect, but it's going to be very close. And you can see just there, I just kind of wiggle those bits that aren't quite in the right spot into their spots. This is a clear packing label that I have printed my journaling onto, and I'm going to trim that up and place those strips where I feel they're going to look the best. And then once I've got them there and I'm happy with their location, I will take the backing off. This will leave them clear with just the writing that you can see. The journaling does say, "You are definitely unique. You make me smile with all your crazy antics, and you always have a hug and a cuddle to remind me how sweet you are." And he definitely is one unique and special. Once that journaling is on, guys, we have one last little thing, and that's just a few enamel dots around the page. I'm going to add a couple around each of those embellishment clusters, and that is the layout done. While I'm doing that, guys, I want to take this opportunity to thank you very much for watching this video and sticking around while I bumble my way through it. Thank you to everybody that leaves comments and leaves likes. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, and all those good things. It really does help me and inspire me to keep making these pages and sharing them with you. And lastly, thank you for just being here. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. See you on the next one. Bye.